So what I wanted to really look at tonight in this time that we've got together is the perhaps one of the fastest and simplest ways to stop the mind. And I'm not talking about some kind of breathing exercise, although there's nothing wrong with those, of course, they're very beneficial, or some kind of spiritual exercise that we can do that actually brings the mind to a halt temporarily, because there are lots of ways to do that, and quite a lot of them are very effective, of course, but the downside to that is mind often starts back up again with even more noise than there was before we even began the exercise. So what I'm talking about here is a full and permanent stopping of the mind, so that from that point forward there is simply a few functional thoughts. Don't forget to turn the oven off, don't forget to lock the door, or you're about to forget your keys, or some, those kind of thoughts that are useful. Turn left here rather than right, it's quicker. Now, all that kind of thing. Those thoughts don't really intrude on our silence. What I'm really talking about is the habitual thoughts of the mind that go around and round and kind of torment us over and over. And is there a way then to bring this kind of thought activity to begin to slow down, to begin to allow it to come to a complete stop? How do we go about doing that? And for me, when I looked at in my own journey when mind was quietest, it was quite surprising when that was. It was quite surprising when that actually occurred. It was almost accidental when the mind first went quiet a few times. Of course, I tried to figure out how that had happened and tried to make it happen again, which made the mind even noisier. It's like it's got scared, it's something inside said, hang on a minute. Because my mind, and I actually believed at one point that I wouldn't exist if I stopped thinking. And that seems weird to me now, but it was very real and felt very true and terrifying. Like, can a human being even exist without thoughts going on? That seemed like a real thing that I needed to look at. So first of all, let's say it's absolutely possible for a human being to exist without thinking. It's possible to go about your life and to be just experiencing. So just listening, just watching, like now, not necessarily having to conceptualize about what's going on in this moment, and how to use what's going on in this moment to our advantage, or how we should have done something differently, or what we could do and didn't do, and all of that. You know how it goes, the mind. It's always talking as if we are this doer of actions. And a lot of the talkingness of the mind is about how to make sure we do the right things to get the results that we want. But of course, if we're not actually a separate being doing these things, if we're not deciding which thoughts are going to come in our mind, if we're not deciding which actions our body is going to do, if we're not deciding what words even we're going to say, they're just arising spontaneously. There's no thinker of thoughts, no doer of action, no planner. Planning happens, no decider. A decision, a thought appears in the mind when it's the right time. A lot of the mind's thinking then is coming from this idea that we've got to get this right. This, whatever this is. So this could be your awakening, it could be your job interview, it could be finding the right person to spend your life with, it could be finding the right place to put your kids in school, on and on and on it goes. All about making decisions and this imaginary doer. And along with that doer, thinking that we're the doer, comes a great responsibility to make sure that we do it right. And of course, if you listen to your mind, pretty much most of the time you don't do it right. And one thing then that we can begin to see, one trick to undercut this thinkingness, is to begin to see that there isn't actually a doer present. There's no separate being who is actually deciding anything. There is only the one supreme self. And in that supreme self, that one being experiencing itself through all these human bodies, actions are just happening, words are just arising, and our actions, thoughts, experiences just all unfolding spontaneously. Even if the thought arises in your mind, I'm going to do this, this is what I'm going to do. That thought just appeared from nowhere. And nobody made it happen, it just appeared in your mind. So, excuse me. We can begin to get a taste of this if we begin to observe our mind as it's thinking. And it's probably the last thing you want to do right now. Probably the thing that I want to do more than anything is just to get away from the mind. But trying to get away from the mind only makes it noisier. If we can take a really good look at it, why are we so convinced that there's a doer of actions and a decider of decisions and a thinker of thoughts? What is the thinker? Where is it? If you were in charge of the content, if you really had any control over your mind at all directly, like we think we do, we would just simply stop thinking, wouldn't we? If you could do anything to turn your mind off, you would have done it by now. And if you could do any, make a change to stop yourself saying that wrong thing that you say to that person, you would do that by now. What's actually happening then? Why are we so convinced that there's a doer, that there's a thinker, that there's a decider? Because if we can really get this deep down, then at least 95% of the thoughts that we have each day will disappear. Because if you look at the thoughts, if you think back for a moment now, if you remember now, if you can, the last thing that you were thinking about before you came onto Satsang, whatever that was, what your latest problem is, what you're obsessing over how to fix, and all of what involves this legendary separate self that's deciding what to do. Even if we apply this to awakening, enlightenment itself, there's an idea that I've got to choose the right practices, choose the right teacher, choose the right satsang, choose the right time to practice, choose how I'm doing the practice. All of those things, right? It becomes very complicated then. And if I don't get any one of those right, I won't get the desired result. What if something very different is occurring? What if you're just actually here? That's all you're doing. And you're watching thoughts arise in the mind and emotions arise in the body. You're watching your body spontaneously do activities, actions. Spiritual practice is just occurring by itself with no one doing it. Even if the thought arises, I'm going to attend satsang. Did that cause you to actually attend satsang? Or was it just a momentary commentary on what was going to happen anyway? So the thought, the commentary of the mind is just going on alongside reality, which is just happening in the meantime. And I'm not trying to make thoughts useless, because some thoughts are very useful. But I am trying to point to this fact that this imaginary doer and thinker of thoughts, if you had a really negative thought about someone, if you had a really critical, judgmental thought in your mind right now about someone, Can you notice the tendency to think I shouldn't have thought that, as if you had any control over it at all? Or if you criticize your own self in your thoughts, judgmental of your own self. Is that I'd like to be more loving, I shouldn't think thoughts like that about myself, as if you had any control over that at all. So where does this leave us then? Are we just drifting through life, duty bound to watch whatever thoughts go through the mind, whatever activities and actions go on in the body? Are we just powerless over what's going on in our experience? Do we have any control at all? Do we have any free will? How can we steer and guide our life? What's even the point of coming to satsang if there is no control over what the mind is doing and the body is doing? Well, we don't have this control, this free will as a separate being, because that separate being doesn't exist. I'm not deciding what words come out of my mouth right now. It's just, they're just coming. But as we come to realize that there is no doer of actions, there's no separate being orchestrating my life. There's just life unfolding as me through this body mind spontaneously. And that unfoldment is always moving towards more of what I do want and less of what I don't want. Naturally, on its own, life wants to experience expansion. Every desire that I think I have as a separate being is really life's desire, expanding. And as I realize that deeper and deeper, what tends to happen then is the quality of my thoughts changes. The quality and the type of actions I have access to then changes. So while I think I'm a separate being, well, I'm really convinced that I'm deciding everything, then I might make some decisions that I regret, might say some things that I seem to regret. All experiential evidence, the illusionary evidence of this separate being, and it keeps going around and around then. And it really seems that I'm deciding what to say because I said the wrong thing, did the wrong thing. As it really gets clear that there's really nothing, no such entity as a separate being. There's just the one self that's here, and there's a body mind moving around in it, doing actions and saying things and thinking things. Then the thoughts and actions and words tend to be the ones that we'd want anyway. So indirectly, we have this complete control as the self, as the one being, as the separate self. We think we have control and we absolutely have none. The free will that the separate sense of self is always chasing after and defending doesn't exist anyway in that way. So just taking a moment, let's just experience this right now. And let's just watch and see what the next thought is that pops into our mind. Let's just watch. And whatever that thought is, when it pops in there, notice that you didn't instigate it. It just arrived unbidden and spends as long as it exists for and then disappears. Let's just watch and see. And most of us can't go more than a couple of seconds without mind saying something. And that's normal, of course, at first. Noticing while we were waiting there as well, you didn't have to instruct your lungs to breathe. They were just doing that anyway. Your eyes are blinking by themselves. Your body's repairing itself and digesting food and doing all the things it does all by itself, just like it's thinking by itself spontaneously. All these activities of the body and of the mind are just happening while you watch. Do you really have any control then in the way that we've been led to believe? Is it really your responsibility then to make the mind stop? Ironically, paradoxically, when we deeply realize there is nothing we can do about the mind to make it quiet, absolutely nothing we can do. We are the space it's appearing in, the body and the mind. And we really surrender into that. There is nothing I can do about anything in my experience, actually. Then everything begins to change into what we would like it to be anyway. It's as if this idea of an imaginary doer has been slowing down, getting in the way of what's trying to unfold, what life wants to do anyway. What I want is what life wants. My life is moving the way that I want it to go anyway. If I can simply come to recognize deeply that I don't have that kind of control. For me, when I first recognized this was really terrifying. I can't stop my mind thinking. I can't let go of any karmic patterns. I can't do anything to reach awakening. I can't do anything to lose the weight that I wanted to lose. I can't do anything about the state of my emotions at that point. And I really let that in though. There's nothing I can do. Why? Because I'm not a someone, I'm not a doer. And all of those things that I want is really what life is already moving me towards. It's already trying to occur and unfold. As I let go of this idea that I'm got to manage that process somehow. What if the only thing in the way of awakening was the someone that was trying to get there? And the last thing that any human being wants to do is to feel helpless or powerless. So we don't want to give up this imagined control that we have. But if you try it just for a moment, there's nothing you can do as a separate being to reach enlightenment. Why? Because you already are where you're trying to get to. There's nobody moving towards it. There's just it. And your body and mind appearing inside it. So I'd urge you just to try to take that a little bit deeper into your heart. There's nothing you can do as a separate being. But the other side of that is there's nothing you need to do, actually. You can't even take any action to undo this imaginary being because it doesn't exist. This imaginary separate sense of someone. Can we be really radically honest in this moment, admit that everything I think I'm doing as a separate being, I'm not. Life is doing it through my body and mind, actually. The one being is doing it, life, synonyms. This moved from being intensely frustrating and terrifying to be actually quite freeing. When I took it deeper, if I'm not doing anything in the way that I think, or I have to be honest that I'm doing all of this, the whole universe, I have to be honest about that. Not just taking responsibility for one body, mind's actions, but recognizing I'm doing all of this. I'm doing none of it, or I'm doing all of it, whichever one feels most right for you. Then there's this deep relaxation because I can't screw it up. I also can't resist awakening. Resistance comes from this imaginary being. It also means that it's already unfolding. The progress that I think I've made as a separate being was what was going to happen anyway. And probably a lot faster without this idea of a someone getting it right or getting it wrong most times. What does that mean? It means you're not responsible for the outcome of any actions. You're just watching their actions happen spontaneously. If I put my hand in the air, I don't have to think about it first, do I? Mind might jump in alongside and say, you're going to put your hand in the air. Or if something falls off the countertop and you reach out quickly out of reflex to grab it before it hits the floor. Mind will say, a fraction of a second later, I did that. I did that. I caught it. Aren't I clever? But then the other side of that coin is, if you don't catch it in time and it drops on the floor and smashes, mind will say, I didn't get that in time. I'm not good enough. I should have done better. And it's just this commentary that's going on about absolutely nothing. This talking in a head in the middle of the great being. And the mind really thinks that this talkingness is actually having some impact on what's actually unfolding. I remember watching one night when I was a child, a show about on TV about one of the general elections that we had here when I can't remember how old. And my mom and dad were watching, as the results come in. And there were all these people talking about which way it was going to go. Was it going to go this way, this way? And they were analyzing this and they were looking at that and they were saying, if this carries on this way, it's going to go this way. And then if it goes this way, it's going to go, this particular result. And I remember just listening to this and thinking, they don't know actually who's going to win this election still. Even like half an hour before the final results came in, they still didn't know. And I remember asking my dad, who's going to win it then? And he said, I don't know. And ever since then, when I hear the mind talking, it doesn't do it these days. But when it used to do its thing, it was like this commentator or on a football match. You watch a football match and the commentator is just going on, or any sports event, just going on and on and on about what's already unfolding. And they get paid to do that. So there's this commentary going on that thinks the commentator is just a thought. The thinker of thoughts is also a thought. I decided that. I made that action happen, says a thought. I should have done that, but I didn't, says a thought. I should not have said that, says a thought. I reached awakening, says a thought. I did not reach awakening. I've screwed it up again, says another thought. All just floating around in the emptiness of being. And this thought stream is totally convinced that it's making a difference as to what's actually occurring. But what if it's not? I'm not saying this so that you push your mind away, but just so that you don't quite take it so seriously. Maybe a little bit lighter. Maybe it could be one of those sports commentators that just talks endlessly about nothing and the same thing over and over again. And once you realize that your mind isn't actually dictating reality with what it's saying, it's kind of impossible to take it as seriously. And that also means to push against it so hard. It becomes like a little cute pet. It becomes like a little 2 or 3 year old toddler that has a little tantrum every now and again, but mostly is placatable. You go think some nice thoughts about awakening, and you sit down and we'll have a chat about awakening or something. So what if there's never been a doer? What if there's just thoughts? What if the whole separate self is a bunch of thoughts? The person that we've taken ourselves to be is just a thought collection, a library of thoughts. Is that terrifying, or is it freeing, or both? Maybe a little of both. What does that mean then? It means there's nothing to undo. Nothing to put back right that this separate being has messed up. Also means there's no karmic patterns, really, because they also belong to a thought. This separate me that really longs for awakening but can't seem to get there is just a thought. But it seems to have a reality and a continuity and a duration and a progress because it's one thought after another. Just spending a moment now, just seeing. Let's just spend another couple of minutes observing what happens. If we really, 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 really try not to think and see that it happens anyway, you'll see that you've got no control in the way that you think. But if you've got no control in that way, you can relax. It's not your job to sort that out. It's only your job to recognize where you're already looking from then. And the mind goes quiet by itself. There's no imaginary doer of actions. And there is no imaginary seeker of enlightenment. There's just enlightenment, actually, already here, everywhere. No one to reach it, merge in it, dissolve in it, become it, embody it. Let's just spend 5 or 10 minutes before we go into the questions. Just watching our body and mind, just watching. Watching the presence or absence of thoughts, emotions, sensations. Just seeing that they're coming and going by themselves. Whatever's unfolding, your lungs are breathing, your mind is thinking, sensations are happening, sense perceptions going on. It's just all happening by itself. And we're simply just watching. Noticing how it feels when you don't have to sort anything out, when you're not responsible for anything. Not in the way that we thought. Don't even have to make anything happen, just simply watching. No thinker, just thoughts. Karmic patterns that don't belong to anybody, just floating around in the emptiness. Emotions arising and falling away, all by themselves. And we're just watching. As if all we can do is watch. It makes no difference to us as the watcher, whether thoughts are happening or not. Sometimes we watch thoughts. Sometimes we watch nothing. There's no manager of my life. There's just life. Life coming to recognize itself. Just watching. Whatever's occurring. We're just watching. With no need to try to control anything. Just noticing how it feels in your body to not have to manage anything. To not have to manage this most important awakening even. Just watch. watching thoughts come, and then watching thoughts go. Just the thoughts and the watching with no thinker. You're just here. Thoughts are happening inside you. Actions are happening inside you. Emotions coming and going inside you. Phenomena moving and changing while you watch. So as we move into the next section with the questions and answers, let's see if we can remain simply in this watching mode. And if a question is asked and an answer is given, those are just happening. There's no questioner. There's no one answering. There's just spontaneous action. There is nobody conducting this orchestra of life. There's just this symphony happening.